Yeah, 19.5.
It's here.
Yeah, it's kind of what we thought.
It is. I mean, CrossFit Games, you are who we thought you were. No pun intended, but seriously. I would have loved some more variants. I was hoping and maybe praying and wishing for it, but this is going to be exciting nonetheless. What's the workout, Nick?
Well, thrusters, chest to bar.
Thrusters, chest to bar, pull-up.
Fran on crack.
Yeah, times two.
Yeah, times two.
With chest to bar, times two.
Yeah,
105 repetitions of each.
Yeah, so we've got 33, 27, 21, 15, 9.
Yep.
Right? Thrusters, chest to bar.
Yep.
And 20-minute time cap. So a lot of time to get all your chest to bars in.
Yeah, definitely a lot of time. And I think that's ironic right out of the gate is that like we take this couplet of two movements that is often fast and like devastating and you cap it with 20 minutes where it's like Castro and the crew are giving a lot of you guys an opportunity to finish this thing whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
So the clock's not going to save many of you, I don't think.
No, and I think that the majority of folks can get through this.
Yep. Especially that have been training with purpose, right?
Yeah,
with
especially
open as their intentions. Yep.
100%, right? But the first thing that comes to mind for me is just the amount of volume, right? So you look at 105 chest to bars, and we'll get into it a little bit, but just, has your training been supporting that volume?
Right.
Right, I think is a big thing. I think before anything, right, our warm up is gonna be up.
Yep. It'll somewhere.
Yep. Over there. And always go check out Active Life. They've got a great warm up to kind of get everything greased as you get into it. But warm up is going to be huge.
Absolutely.
In this one. You think about aerobic, demands of this workout, and if you don't warm up your aerobic system, you're gonna be hurting. You're gonna be behind. You're not gonna be able to bring what you're potentially capable of, especially on the thrusters, right?
Right. Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. I think there's nothing more universally taxing than a thruster. And I'm speaking from personal experience. I see that movement pop up and I know that I have to do my due diligence personally to warm up extra for something like that because of the way it makes my legs feel, my trunk feel when I'm trying to breathe. Time under tension's increased. So yes, your warm up, especially to the lower extremities, are just going to be flushed with blood. So make sure they're amply prepared. Follow the warm up that Nick provides, or make sure that you guys are doing your own thing, but make sure that it's thorough.
Yeah, 100%. So what, we talked a little bit about first impressions, right? When you saw this come out, what were some of your first impressions in terms of executing such a large, right, volume of reps?
Yeah, so I mean, I look at this and I think a lot of athletes may make the mistake of just associating with Fran because it's those two movements and that's fast. I mentioned that already, but this one's not the same, right? It's very different.
It's not Fran.
And in your mind, you have to approach it differently. So as I look at this volume that's before us, I think, for me personally, I would rather go bigger and smoother on the thrusters, and I would rather drop more frequently and have shorter, faster sets on the chest to bars. Almost looking at my time under the pull-up bar as a opportunity to maybe fatigue my back and my biceps and recover my body more universally in regards to aerobic and legs so that I can get back to that thruster.
Yeah, 100%. And I think it goes back to most open workouts, if not all of them, where transition times are huge. And so if you can, if you end up busting out a set of 10 pull-ups and then sitting there for 6, 7, 10 seconds, you might have been better off going 4-3-3 with like a 1 or 2 second break. So you know it by now, something to really consider, especially with this huge volume.
100%.
Yeah. So I think what's really exciting is to see what people are capable of, right?
Oh yeah.
Most everybody has done Fran or some semblance of Fran, so you know where you sit with that, you know what it feels like. But as Adrian mentioned, it's a different animal. And so I would approach it more in the idea of like a 2K, right?
Yes.
Not a 500 meter
No,
road.
No, great association. Yep, absolutely.
So if Fran's your 500, you can't take the same strategy into your 2K. I mean, you could, but it'll get really ugly really quick.
It will. More people watching you will enjoy it more than you will enjoy it by doing it with that strategy. So,
So if you do it with that strategy, send us a video.
Yeah, that too. And I think it's important to honestly get into a little bit of there's some benchmark tiers that we talked about, right? Like if you've got X capacity, maybe choose Y.
Mm-hmm.
If you got Z capacity, maybe you're choosing W. And the reason is because we just ourselves sat here and watched, some of the open announcement shows. We see the fittest and the fittest male and female attack these workouts, and even themselves come out and that set of 33 opening both on thrusters and pull-ups, and they're breaking it up.
Yeah.
So what does that mean for the more mortal, maybe not all mortal, because I know some of you guys watching this are more towards the cyborg side yourself, but maybe towards the more mortal side of the fitness enthusiasts? Like what are we suggesting? What are we throwing out there?
Yeah, so we talked a little bit about, I think, well, first of all, I think chest to bars are going to be the biggest limit or consideration.
Yeah.
Thrusters, it's a little bit about engine, it's a little bit about that grit and just
Definitely.
suffering, right?
Yep.
And so if we focus on the chest to bars, I think we talked about, like, 3 groups, if you will, and again, they're really gray. Everybody's a little bit different, but if you can, let's just say, do 60 unbroken chest to bars, taking an approach like Matt or Tia did by breaking in half might work really well for you. You have to know your body, where your muscle endurance kind of starts and ends. And then we talked about the next tier of being, if you have 30 unbroken chest to bars, right? Maybe you want to think about starting that first set in sets of 7. So it might sound like small sets with someone who can do 30 reps, but they're going to catch up really, really quick.
Right.
Again, smaller sets, small reps. And then I'd say, if you have less than 15 chest to bars, then you might want to consider really extremely small sets, maybe 2s, maybe 3s, with quick resets, right? Get that pull-up bar that's just that perfect height, set of the mats, whatever you have to do to assist yourself getting into it.
Right.
That might not be a bad strategy for that, right?
Yep.
You mentioned that you would probably, if you were to do, or when you do this workout, you'd probably cut it in thirds.
Yeah, I would specifically, we're in complete agreement in regards to shorter sets, smaller rest. For me specifically as an athlete, there are a couple things, and you guys might be able to take this into your own kind of like mindset or thought, but like when I'm doing things like a chest to bar, a couple things that I'm considering is how fast do I feel on the bar, right? Is my rep speed slowing down? Where are my hands positioned on the bar? Is my grip tight? Are my grips still tight around the bar? Are they exactly where I want, or are they starting to slip? Am I losing position? Am I losing leverage? And when I start to feel those things happen, I know I must drop then, right? And in a workout with 105 chest to bars, that tells me like early, if I feel that, I'm like, oh, I went too big, right? So I want to feel as fresh and as sharp as I can as long as possible. And then in this workout, for me, it would be about those rounds of 21, 15, 9, where it's like, okay, can I now only split this 21 in half? And then maybe can I go unbroken on my 15 and even 9 in hopes to make up on some of the ground where guys maybe potentially open bigger on me in some of those earlier rounds. But I think those are things to consider. So whether you're coming out, splitting the reps only in half, whether you're going to go in thirds or whether you're going to go in quarters or more, I think some of those things, considering like how your body's feeling in time, because all of us sometimes need to like ad lib, right?
Yeah.
We set this strategy and all of a sudden we're like, the wheels are coming off, and then being able to adapt, I think, is going to be important.
Yeah, 100%. And this workout has huge pacing implications, right? I mean, if you screw it up in the first 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, 2 minutes.
Yep, 2 minutes.
It's going to be a long workout, right? Yeah, I love it. And I think, aside from chest to bar, obviously we have thrusters. And the thrusters, everybody cycles them at different rates. And so the one consideration, right? So when you think about a workout and you think about a strategy, I always like to come up with an anchor point, right? And so the anchor, you typically is what I recommend to my athletes is what is going to be your limiter within the workout, right? If it's breathing and leg endurance, then you have to start by strategizing around those thrusters, right? If you know it's going to be chest to bar limitations, then strategize around that first.
Absolutely.
With the thrusters, if you know you have a fast cycle rate and a really, really good aerobic capacity, you can hang on, you can suffer with the best of them, then maybe being more aggressive in the thrusters, right? And then just keeping that rest time, that transition time down in the chest to bars is going to be money for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I agree. I think that, when you look at what time a rest is going to cost you, dropping from the pull-up bar is less costly, right? You drop, you breathe, you jump, you go. Thrusts are different. We're dropping the bar from over our head. We're waiting. The bar's settling. It could potentially be bouncing. We have to regrip it. We're doing a squat clean into the next thruster. It's just a slower movement. So the cost there is going to be much higher. And I think that has to be, for the majority of us out there, the place where you take a little bit more chance and you kind of go a little bigger. For me personally, again, that would be where I I strategize to break my sets up less and keep more of a consistent, steady flow of a rhythm through the repetition, so that I can breathe at the top of my thruster, feel smooth rhythm in the bottom, and then I think that would allow me to have more success down the road. And then, just like Nick said, but it's about surrounding yourself personally with and understanding where your personal limiters are, and then working around that. So for someone weaker on a barbell, it might be a totally different scenario where they're like, well, I'm going to make my money on the pull-up bar,
right, and
I'm going to need to break those thrusters into thirds at least.
Totally. Yeah, and I think that's spot on, right?
Yeah.
I think in terms of equipment, there's not much. The big thing that we chatted about was grips, right? Just make sure equipment, first of all, is just in good working order and you're familiar with it. Obviously grips, look into the rules for sure, but classic, pull-up bar, you can either have it taped or grips.
Or grips, use your favorite pull-up bar in the gym, that's for sure.
100%.
Always helps,
Favorite bar. With bumpers, just, think about, especially for, the 65 pounds, if you have 15s, it's going to be huge. If not, those 10s, if they do break, meaning you drop the bar, they bend, they snap, whatever it is, it can be an issue. So just kind of think about that. And that's really the only big consideration. Chalk, just be mindful with it, I guess. Like, you're going to want to chalk up. Maybe you do, but maybe the better strategy is going from the bar, the thrusters, get your first set of chest to bars in, and then chalk up during that 2-second rest. Time's much better spent.
Oh yeah, much better spent, and I just think that that's even a point where it's like you have to strategize that.
Yes.
And if you don't set a strategy or have an intention or have like a expectation with it, we all know where we're going when we get tired. The chalk bucket. And even if that means we don't necessarily need it, but like, okay, I'm gonna keep moving, here we go. And then, right? So set a standard, and if it's going from the barbell, you're not gonna lose too much chalk on the barbell doing thrusters. Like, it's fact, your hands are just resting under the bar. So chalk up before the workout starts, before you hit the thrusters, come back, do a set of your pull-ups, drop down, chalk it up, finish them up, back to the bar, do your thing. So, having that kind of mantra and mindset, I think, is gonna be powerful.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's an exciting one.
What do you think about repeatability?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I think that it's going to come back to training volume, and what you're accustomed to, right? So if you're regularly seeing 100 chest to bars in the week of training in a session for yourself, then you're probably pretty well acclimated to it. You're going to know how well you recover, right? 2 days later, can you wash your hair in the shower, kind of thing. I think if you fit into that category, you're going to be in a better place Monday than the person who, let's say, has 30 or 40 within a session every week, right?
Absolutely. Doing these things for skill work, just touching them up, and then coming to do a workout like this with 105 isn't going to be where you're going to be able to do it twice or 3 times, because you're going to be so blown up.
Yeah, exactly.
So volume needs to be your friend for this one.
Yeah, and it's going to be tough, right? So coming out of the open, making sure that, when we program the weeks ahead, the biggest thing that we anchor is saying, okay, well, what's potentially going to come out, and we can't overtax that, right? So, chances are you haven't been seeing a lot of pull-ups in the training you've been doing, depending on what program you're on, but that's just a reality. So you're going to know really soon that coming out of that workout, whether you're going to be able to repeat it. You might feel great Monday, halfway through the workout, you're just not going to have any juice. So honestly, you guys should all have in the back of your mind, one and done with this. If you get to failure on a chest to bar pull-up, I think it's for sure one and done, if that makes sense. So if you're really struggling to get all 105 reps and you do get them in 20 minutes, Monday is going to be really tough. So that kind of plays into strategy a little bit, right? So if you know that you're probably not going to be able to repeat, then maybe the thing to do is strategize, dry run this tomorrow, and then commit to Monday. Kind of up to you.
Right. And that dry run meaning like not a full walkthrough. This is just like partition a couple rounds of something with these movements. Give it an opportunity, see how you might want to break some things up, your pacing, what's the tempo of the thruster going to look like, what are your breaks going to feel like, hopefully, for the chest bars, that kind of thing.
100%.
I love it.
Yeah. The idea, I think, you will know if you pace this successfully if you end with a little bit more momentum than you started with, right? And it's not like, oh, you know, you're going to suffer. By momentum, I don't mean suffer less, but it's just like, think about any aerobic, you know, any race, endurance race, right?
100%.
Where you start out just a little bit in control and then speed up through the entire race. That's kind of what we want to simulate here, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Going back to that 2K, imagine that 2K and a 1K in, you're like dying, you've redlined, and you can hardly pull. Like, that's, everybody knows that that's not where you want to be. So treat it as such.
Absolutely not. Yeah. And even I think take it also with a grain of salt, but go back and watch the champs hit this thing up. I think you can learn a lot from watching someone at that capacity, how they do it, body language, what it looks like, and even Frazier himself coming off the rig in his round of 15 looked like with the intention to go unbroken, slipped off at 12 or 13, but that's what it looks like when we're at the end of our fitness capacity, right? Like he pushed it just right, was able to go unbroken on his 9 and really had some momentum, just like Nick said, to finish. So 19.5, it's been 5 weeks.
Yeah.
It's over already.
There you go.
It's crazy.
We'll see you back in October.
It'll be here before we know it.
Yep, it will.
What's up, guys? I'm Adrian Conway from Brute Strength Training. We just wrapped the 2019 Open, and if you're out there wanting a better performance, or you just want to be a better version of yourself, for the next time that it comes around, October will be here before we know it. So click the link and join the Brute Tribe.